Well, hello there. Welcome back to another episode of DCU Daily. But as always, we will start off with the news. I'm, of course, Dan. Thanks for joining us today. We have so much to talk about. James Cameron has given us an update on Avatar Fire and Ash. Things are going ahead of schedule. We'll get into that. Moana, of course, has crossed $1 billion at the box office. What does that mean for the franchise? Just how much of a surprise is that? We'll get into that, of course. We also have Chris Columbus, the director of the first couple of Harry Potter movies, weighing in on the new TV series that is in development right now. And there's, of course, the big news that Ryan Gosling is apparently getting close to signing up for a new Star Wars movie. Who's going to be directing that Star Wars movie? Which one of those many movies that are been gestating for a while is it? We'll get into the details of that story, of course. And we have, as always, some DC stuff to get into as well. James Gunn has been, talking about what is canon, what isn't canon. And we're just, getting to a point where John and I want to talk about a little bit this changing, mile markers that James Gunn lays down all the time of what exactly should be considered canon and what shouldn't be. What's the reason why, the target seems to keep shifting? And is it, too much to ask, to just have a clean break from what came before versus what is here today? We'll talk about that. And then to finish things off, John is going to give us his favorite comic books of all time. So if you're a fan of DC, Marvel, or comics in general, this was a request from you guys. So John would finally answer that question. What are his top 5 comics of all time? Maybe there's some honorable mentions in there as well. So we'll get into that and so much more. But before we do, as always, we like to kick things off with the news. So let's hit that intro and get things started.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number 2.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
Robert
You're
Downey.
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see coins.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right, well, it's time to get into the news, shall we? There's so much to talk about, and with me to do that and so much more, as always, I've got John. How are you doing today? You are muted, sir.
I was eating chips and I wanted not to be loud, so apologies. But yes, I'm doing good, doing great. Let's jump into this thing.
Yes,
because I'm Batman.
Let's get into it. I don't know if we're going to be talking about Batman today or not.
We're not
I'm sure
talking
we
about
will
Batman. I
at
just
some
wanted
point,
to
but
do a quick impression real quick.
Hell yeah. All right, well, let's get into it, shall we? So, well, we do have to talk about Moana because Moana, the sequel, Moana 2, as it says here, more Moana moolah in deadline. The sequel has now crossed $1 billion at the worldwide box office. And something that is, to me, still feels a bit of like a surprise because honestly, when the movie came out, it didn't do nearly as well. It didn't do nearly as well as the first Moana did. The music didn't really hit as well with a lot of the people. So now that we have, had it in the movie theaters for a couple of months, it looks like it's, not only made $1 billion, but it became the third Disney movie of 2024 to hit that milestone of crossing $1 billion mark, that should be. And the other two to do that, to cross $1 billion at the box office for Disney, was Inside Out 2, which became the highest grossing animated movie of all time, beating out previously the title held by the CGI Lion King from 2019. And also, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine, which made like $1.3 billion. So between the three movies, Disney has like $4 billion at the box office. So clearly, they did well for themselves last year. They were the biggest studio in terms of bringing in the box office receipts. And Moana is now the third movie to join that $1 billion club from 2024 for Disney at least. And I don't really remember if there were any other studios to have $1 billion movies last year, quite frankly. So, Disney doing it well. Now it becomes the 32nd $1 billion movie for Disney worldwide. So that also, I believe, is the high mark. No other studio has anywhere close to that. John, what are your thoughts on this? Moana, again, just crossing $1 billion, continuing to make money, even though the second one is not considered to be as good as the first one. What are your thoughts on just the success that it's had so far, at least at the box office? Clearly, people like it enough to get, go
I
keep
mean,
going and see
yeah,
it.
I mean, it's got some nice animation. I've heard it's not like the worst thing ever. I haven't seen it, so I can't judge. But I've heard it's not like terrible or anything. It's not like Home on the Range levels of bad, but like it's just not
I mean, I've been
that
hearing
great.
good things in
And
general. I mean,
it's
some
not
people
as
don't
good
like
as the
it,
first
but
one. It's the fact
yeah.
that it went from, oh, it was gonna be like a mini series or a
Like
TV series
on Disney Plus, it was
on
considered, it
Disney
was
Plus, and
as
then
a,
they kicked it up a notch.
you
Usually
know
when that's the
why?
case, it usually isn't good.
I mean, I would remember because Lin-Manuel Miranda signed up for the Mufasa movie because this wasn't supposed to be a theatrical film. So he did the music for the first one, but he didn't do it for Moana 2 because he was like, well, why would you get him involved in a Disney Plus thing, right? So they were like, we have bigger fish for you to fry. But then the first Moana became the most streamed movie on Disney Plus in 2023. So all of a sudden, Disney must have been looking at that, like this mini series or limited series of that eventually became Moana 2, and they were like, you know what? We should put this out in the movie theater. And I mean, Bob Iger, being the smart man that he is, he's like, we should go theatrical with this. Not only will we make more money and make the money that we put into the show back, but like maybe this is the better decision overall, and it will just advance the reputation of the franchise that it is now because last year they started filming the live action Moana as well, which is crazy to me that for a movie that is only like a few years old, they're already doing a live action remake. But John, I mean, yes, like you mentioned, this movie at one point in time was supposed to be just a streaming like series. And if I remember correctly, Liz talked about it that you could definitely gonna feel that they sort of mash a TV show into a movie. We talk about it all the time. Like, Obi-Wan should have been a movie if they just cut out some of the, some of the extra fat. And
Well, it was
why
supposed to
didn't they
be.
do
That was
that?
another one that actually had the reverse thing. It was
But they did the
supposed to be a
reverse thing with
movie.
that, yeah. Or like even
Um,
you, like you said, even if they did Creature Commandos as a movie, you could have easily had a 3-hour movie. You cut away some of the fat instead of doing 7 episodes. We talk about it all the time, but it's rare to see what was something that was conceived as a limited series then become a movie, right? Like we usually don't see that happen. We talk about that, but like the potential of that. But here we have an example of it happening and it making $1 billion. I mean, do you think that's more to do with the fact that this is Moana 2, or do you think if let's say Obi-Wan was a movie, do you think that would have made $1 billion as well?
I think that would have definitely, because I feel like the ideas for the film, this I've heard the script for the original film was very good, and they used a lot of those ideas, but changed those ideas for the miniseries. And it was supposed to be a trilogy. It was supposed to be like this whole thing leading up to the events of A New Hope, and the ideas were really good and really interesting. And then they pretty much just cut all that for the sake of just playing it safe because Solo failed. So they're like, clean slate everything. It's like, what? Like, you have a young Obi-Wan Kenobi you can use.
Mm,
Why the fuck would you do Han Solo first when there's only one true Han Solo? Like, guys, come on, what are we doing here? Um, so yeah, I just feel like Disney shot themselves in the foot, and I feel like this is kind of weirdly them learning from their mistakes, even though I understand that the animation studio is under a different thing than the Star Wars stuff. But I feel like this is them like, okay, you know what? We have something here. Let's make
yeah.
it into a movie, and they did that, and they got $1 billion. While Kenobi, I feel like that was another thing that was kind of mixed to positive. But even in that state, this was also mixed to positive, and probably would have gotten way more money if they just made, I forget what this writer was, like Stuart something. If they just made that movie, even if they made that trilogy of movies, it would have been way more money than just what they did, which was very dumb.
Yeah, I mean, also like the article points out, like this was a great business decision for Disney, right? Like they decided, you know what, we're gonna put this thing out theatrically. We're gonna like take a chance and see if it makes money. It doesn't always pay off because Blue Beetle was supposed to be a streaming movie on HBO, and then Warner Brothers was like, let's give it another $25 million in the budget. Let's spruce up the action a little bit, and then let's put it out in a movie theater. We believe in this thing. We think it looks good enough, and it didn't quite work out, but I think it was still the right decision because the movie was good. It just happened to be part of like a DCEU franchise that was already dead before the movie came out, and people knew that it was dead and on its way out. So I think that hurt it, but I think otherwise Blue Beetle might have done a lot more business at the box office, like Moana too. Of course, it wasn't like Blue Beetle was a sequel to a previous billion-dollar movie. So yeah, Moana 2 making $1 billion, it makes sense. When you look at the fact that the first Moana became the most streamed, the highest streamed movie on Disney Plus in 2023, that it compelled the executives at Disney to be like, you know what, maybe we don't put this on Disney Plus. Maybe we turn it into a movie and put it on in a movie theater. And clearly that decision has paid off. Like, when you look at that, when you look at the popularity of the franchise, the songs that people still sing to me every other week, I hear one of the songs because all the parents that took all their kids to see that movie 500 times to memorize the songs, which I'm sure they'll be in the live action iteration, which is already filming. So Moana isn't going anywhere, and yeah, with the newest movie making $1 billion, I'm sure when Moana the live action movie comes out in 2026, I believe it is, I'm sure that's also going to do well, and then I'm sure they're already looking at greenlighting a third Moana. Why not? Why not? So yeah, just continues to bode well for Disney. $3 billion movies last year. They did quite well for themselves. Now, speaking of which, last year we looked at the numbers. The box office was dominated by Disney. They made almost like half of the almost half, I think, of the box office receipts compared to the other studios. But still, we talk about how this, the COVID pandemic, and then the strikes that happened in Hollywood in late 2023, we still haven't quite recovered from that, even though we're now a year out from the strikes, and it's been like even longer, like it's been 4 or 5 years since the COVID pandemic shut down everything, and movies really just went away for a little while. But we still are feeling the effects of that because when you look at the overall projection for this year's domestic box office, at least in the U.S. and North America, it's $9 billion. That's what they're tracking it for in 2025, which is still pretty far away from the pre-COVID records, as you can see here in Deadline. And they asked the question, what is an industry to do? I'm going to read out a little bit of what they talk about here to kind of give you guys some context. So stick with me here. It will take a little, maybe a minute, but it will provide you some good context for why this matters. The domestic box office, it says in the article, is bound to do around $9 billion in 2025, around $300 million more than 2024's estimated final figure of $8.7 billion, which we talked about not that long ago on the show. If so, it will be the second time that the US-Canada ticket sales hit that threshold post-COVID after 2023's domestic tally of $9 billion. ComScore reports that 110 movies in 2025 will open in more than 2,000 theaters apiece, which is 15 more than 2024 and the most ever post-pandemic. The new year will even end with the big event movie to carry us into 2026, of course, 20th Century Studios' Avatar: Fire and Ash, which could be the highest grossing movie of the year by a mile. Now, the previous James Gunn directed sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water, was released in December 2022 and overall grossed $684 domestic, with $283 million of that total coming in 2023. So John, what they're saying here overall is that we're still a ways off of where we were before the pandemic. We're only going to hit the $9 billion mark for like the second time since the post-COVID era began. In fact, if you go a little further down this article, I think they point out where the numbers used to be before the pandemic, because the last time that we hit a double-digit billion-dollar mark, in the North American box office was in 2019 when Avengers Endgame came out, and it was $11 billion. So for 10 years between 2009 and 2019, the annual box office, the annual domestic box office, it passed the double-digit billion-dollar mark pretty much every year. Like we made at least $10 billion or more at the box office every year between 2009 and 2019. Now, since then, since the pandemic, we haven't hit that number, like not even once. Like in 2018, we hit a record 11.9 billion, and in 2019 we still hit 11 billion. But since then, we hit 9 billion once in 2023. Last year we hit 8.7, and this year they're projecting 9 billion. But that's still $1 billion off from 10 billion and $2 billion off from what we did in 2019. John, what do you think this is a reflection of people's, like, the movie going habits? Like, the moviegoers just stay at home more often, things have changed, there's more options in streaming than ever before. What do you think it's causing it? Do you think it's because I have some reasons of my own that I believe are the cause for this, but what are your thoughts on this?
We have talked about this before,
Yeah.
and I think it purely comes down to a number of things. One, you can get a quote unquote better movie theater experience at home. You don't have to worry about other people. You don't have to worry about wasting money on gas. You don't have to worry about wasting money on a ticket, on concessions, all that. You can make a thing of popcorn for fucking what, $1? How much are those fucking packs of microwavable popcorn? Like $5 for a pack of 10.
I mean, if you get them in a
Like,
box, like, they probably don't even cost you $1 per. So
yeah, it's like fucking like
Yeah.
a pack of ramen, like 90 cents. So it's like that. So there's that as well. And then so there's that. They don't want to waste gas, which is a lot of money now, and they don't want to waste a ticket, which is at best like $9 to $10 for a matinee on a Tuesday. But like on a day when it's like like a Friday or a Saturday when you're out of work and you have the time, that's like 12, 13, $14. And that's, you can get an entire like year of like streaming for that amount of money. So there's that as well. So it's just a money thing, and it's just like with movie theaters shutting down, there's a lot less of them. Like, I remember I saw this guy where he was like, "Yeah, I don't go to movies anymore because the nearest movie theater is 2 hours away from me." And that's like,
That's
I'm not
really far away. Damn.
that's really fucking far away. And
I mean,
he's
I don't know
like,
where he lives. I'm like, do you live in the middle of nowhere? I hope not. But like,
that's essentially what it has become. It's like like movie theaters are closing left and right. And so there's that. There's just like location, and it's not even just a gas thing. It's just like it takes too long.
I mean, it's like
even if
movie
it's like,
theaters is a business that operates on very fine margins of profit. It's similar to like the airline industry, where a lot of airlines go under when they can't, when just revenue goes down because their profit margins are so thin that there's very little margin for error. It's like the way streaming services are these days, right?
Yeah.
Like most of them are still not profitable.
And
So,
it's just
yeah.
like, and it's just like it's a money thing. It's lack of movie theaters, and it's just like convenience. It's
Yeah.
just like, why would I go to a movie? Sure, okay, it's a new release, but with how movie theaters or movies are nowadays, that shit'll fucking end up on streaming in a month. Oh, I can wait a month for that.
Yeah, see, but this
So
is
there's that too.
I want to look at, you make a really good point. You know what? Let me go back to the article. I want to highlight this quote from a streaming executive, not a streaming, just one studio boss, anonymously gave a quote for this article saying, if theatrical just becomes an advertisement for streaming or PVOD, which is like premium video on demand, so that would be like Netflix, or anytime you're paying for something to maybe
Or I
buy
think
it
it's
on
like
Apple.
paying per movie.
Right, like if
I
you
think
buy
it's-
on Apple Digital, or like you get it on Fandango or Vudu, whatever. So
Yeah.
if theatrical just becomes an advertisement for streaming or PVOD, the audience is going to begin to understand that. They said it removes the programmatic reason to go to a theater.
Exactly.
You know what that means? Basically, what they're saying is we are training the audience to go to the movies only for like the big stuff, like for the most, and in fact, don't go to the movie
Hell,
theater at all.
I've
It will
seen
be on
people that-
streaming. The amount of people that say, "Oh, I won't see it. I'll just wait till it comes out on streaming." And the reason why more and more people are saying it, because I remember this, John, before the pandemic. Just take Avengers Endgame for example. But I mean, that's a really big movie. But like, give me another one. Maybe like John Wick 3 or John Wick 2, right? John Wick 3 Parabellum, whatever it was. Even a movie like that, back then you would have a 90-day release window. So the movie would be in a movie theater exclusively for at least 3 months. That was the minimum. And depending on if it was like a Top Gun Maverick, you might get in a longer run time, right? Because like Top Gun Maverick was in a movie theater for like 6 months. That wasn't entirely uncommon. Like back in the 80s and 90s, movies could stay in a movie theater for like a year. And then yes, and then you know what? After they left the movie theater, they didn't just show up on streaming the next day. What they would do is there would be a gap. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I'm waiting. And then it would end up on like, digital. You can get it like on Apple, you can buy it and rent it at home or on Amazon Prime, wherever. But then after that, so there was another window. Like, okay, now you don't have to pay for everybody's movie ticket. You can spend a little less money overall, but you still have to pay to watch it, whether you rent it or you buy it. And then there was the physical release, right? Like you would get a physical DVD, Blu-ray release of the movie in a physical media format, and then it would end up on a streaming service. So from the time that the movie came out to the time you could stream it on a Netflix, Max, Disney Plus, or whatever, it might have been a year and a half from when the movie came out. Nowadays, think about it this way: Nosferatu is still in a movie theater, but Nosferatu is now available to buy or rent on digital, and it's been in the movie theater for like a few weeks. So there's a lot of people out there who might be like, you know what, I want to see it in a movie theater, but I could just watch it at home. Why not just spend 10, $20 and do that instead of especially at a time when for a lot of us in the North American market, a movie ticket could cost us $20 per person. Why spend $40 for, even if you're taking somebody out on a date to a movie, versus just staying at home and spending $20 just once instead of spending $20 twice for 2 tickets to just rent the movie and the both of you can watch it in the privacy of your home.
I mean, $20 is like the cheaper end of like a matinee for 2 people.
Exactly. But the price of that is not even, I mean, that itself is obviously, there's a price proposition, there's a cost proposition there, but just the fact that the studios used the pandemic to kind of bring into vogue and kind of forced onto the exhibitors, like AMC's and Regals and Cinemarks of the world, this 45-day release window, which even for a lot of movies that don't even follow that, they're like, if the movie really is trash, like for example, Kraven the Hunter is coming on digital literally weeks after it came out, not even the full 45-day release window. Or like Nosferatu, for example, it's in a movie theater, but all of a sudden in less than like 3-4 weeks time, it's already in digital.
Yeah.
They had the leverage because movie theaters were on their death knell. So they took advantage of that. But I think they're looking at the short-term gain and they're exchanging that for long-term loss. Because this kind of, habit building where you're basically programming your audience to be like, "Oh, I'll wait till it's on streaming." Yeah. It's fine now.
I've seen people,
but long term is going to kill the movies in movie theaters.
Big stuff. People for big stuff, like fucking people would come in droves for Marvel movies. Now you're getting big stuff like Captain America and Fantastic Four, and people are saying, "I'm going to wait till streaming." People for Superman, the biggest fucking superhero in the fucking world. I will wait till streaming to watch a Superman movie. Like, in what bizarro world, pun intended, universe are we fucking living in when you want to watch a Superman movie on your fucking laptop or a fucking TV screen as your first experience watching this kind of movie? I can't wrap my head around that. I can't. Like, I mean, sure, there are smaller movies that like Late Night with the Devil that's released on Shudder. It maybe gets a Fathom event at the most. Okay, I'll give you that. But like for even for smaller stuff, I still want to see smaller stuff. Like, Better. Look at Better Man. Better Man, that was a biopic with a nice gimmick and fucking barely scraped by with 14 million. And it's like ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. And, it's just they're gonna just continually shoot themselves in the foot because people are like people fucking they got bills to pay. They got rent to pay. They're working
It's
3 jobs to
I'm
fucking get
just
their rent. They're not gonna spend it 10 fucking to $15 on a movie
I mean, I
with
get, but it's also like the
maybe
cost of
that
snacks.
and snacks
Everything is
too.
up. I mean, I get some of this is inflation based, so I get it. I mean, it's still cheaper than going to a concert or going to most any other live event, a comedy show, whatever you can go to. It's cheaper than going out for just even dinner. Like it's still one of the best date ideas if you want to go out on a date, you want to go on date night, whether it's with your partner, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, or even just for the family. Going to the movies is still cheaper on average, but I think the idea, the idea that you may have to drive like 2 hours and then I think that's still an extreme case, but even then
Mhm.
to do all of those things, like if you're gonna get out of your house, you're gonna dress up, you're gonna go out, you're gonna go get some snacks, you're gonna make time to go sit and watch some movie trailers, listen to Nicole Kidman if you're at an AMC, and then watch the movie. For that experience, you need to make it worth the people's while. And I think the studios are cheapening the movie going experience by bringing out these movies and making them available on streaming or digital to buy or rent literally weeks after they come out in the movie theater. Like you need that exclusivity window to basically create the value proposition. We talked about last year, like Roadhouse, right? Roadhouse. Forget the name of the director, but he was really mad that that movie did not get a theatrical release.
Was it Doug Lyman?
Doug Lyman, I think. And he was just like, it would have done well. And I'm like, look, Roadhouse would not have made like $1 billion. It wouldn't even have made 500 million, but it probably would have made a few hundred million, maybe 200, maybe 300 million. And that would have given it a certain level of prestige because it's a theatrical movie that a lot of people probably went and saw and then talked about to their friends and family. And regardless of how much they loved or did not like it, it would have gotten that exposure, it would have gotten a marketing campaign. And then when you drop it on Amazon Prime, just as many people as did or went to see it when it did drop
I
on
mean, look
Amazon
at Red
Prime
One.
would have gone to
That
see
was
it.
another thing. Red One fucking bombed in the theater, but the
Yeah.
fucking numbers on Amazon were
It was
huge.
through the freaking roof, and it wasn't. Yeah, it was. There's just so many examples of that where like you put a movie in a movie theater, it adds prestige to it, and there's a reason why Tom Cruise was like, "You ain't taking my fucking movie out of a movie theater for like a good 8 months." Like Top Gun Maverick came out in
Yeah.
what like it was early summer, and
It
then
was
it was
May.
still in
Remember,
a
it was the
movie theater
Memorial Day
around Christmas
weekend. It
time.
broke numbers
Yeah,
that week.
it was huge. It was record breaking, and then it was still in a movie theater at like Christmas time. And then once it came out of a movie theater, then they went through all the because like historically that's like I described earlier, that was the way of doing things. And that was what the movie industry financially was built on top of.
Mhm.
And nowadays with all these executives that are like, chasing Wall Street numbers and being like, "Oh, we want to satisfy our stakeholders and stockholders and stuff and we just want to chase the stock price and do all of that shit." And like you're destroying the traditional Hollywood model for how they make money through all these different release windows, through like the pay one window, the pay two window, through like the exclusive window for when it's available for renting. Like to get it to streaming back in the day, like I said, it could take if Barbie came out in 2016, you might not have had it, end up on a Netflix or HBO Max, which didn't even exist at the time, until like 2 years after. I remember thinking like back in the day, I was like, oh my god, I really want to watch that movie, but like, can I get it on streaming? Can I get it on Netflix? But like, you'd have to wait 2 years. Now it's like you might get it on your favorite streaming service within months, if not weeks. It's like we saw last year, what was it, Fall Guy? Like they put that out on streaming like literally
Well,
3
it was
weeks
still in the
after the
theater.
movie came out because the movie sucked so bad. And but the thing is, here's the thing. Yes, I get it if the movie flopped out the gate that you want to do that, but still, you're not giving a movie a chance for people to kind of rediscover it. Like leave it in there for a little while. It's
Yeah.
not hurting you. It's not like all of a sudden, look, if people didn't go to see it in a movie theater and you gave it a marketing campaign and everything, what makes you think they're gonna watch it at home when you put it out on streaming? And in most cases, you see the numbers aren't all that good. It's very rare that you see a movie that didn't do in a movie theater and you put it out prematurely on streaming that all of a sudden it blows up. I'm like the same people that wanted to see it in a movie theater, would have already they already saw it. Like it's not like they're clamoring to go get it again. And do you remember with Top Gun Maverick that not only did it break records at the movie theater, but do you remember it was #1 trending when they released it on like iTunes and stuff that you can rent it and buy it. It was #1 on the charts for a long time. And then once it came out on streaming, it shot up to #1 on Paramount Plus. It was like everywhere that it went in each of its exclusive windows, it was #1, #1. And they didn't rush through all of that. They didn't mash all the different things together. They were like, we're gonna do it in theaters. Then you can rent it and buy it online. Then there's gonna be a physical release. Now it's on streaming, and even in physical media release, it was #1. Like it's just, we need more of that. And I know that you want to have a model that's flexible to the situation of different movies, but we need a lot more of that and a lot less of what we're seeing today. Like Nosferatu is already available on Disney.
I feel there needs to be a 1 month minimum of it being in the theater.
Not even 1 month minimum. 45 days was the new window. They halved it from 90 days, right?
And it's also, there's
90
also
days. I think we need to bring back the 90 days.
There's also months. People like me that are, that are into that movie theater experience and want to do that really badly.
Yeah.
But then there's also the movie theater etiquette has changed because we got used to lockdown. We got used to, like pausing a movie, answering a phone call, getting something to eat, go and take a shit. Like we're used to like all that stuff in our own home. But the thing is, we unfortunately carried that over back to the movie theater experience when movie theaters came back after lockdown. People are fucking texting, they're talking on the phone, they're leaving their trash everywhere. Trust me, that was always bad, but I feel like has gotten worse. People, like, I remember I was in Nosferatu fucking like last month, and I noticed people were like constantly fucking getting up. It's like, you're missing the movie. Like, what? Like, I understand. Like, I have like a fucking rhythm. I don't get, like, if I try to go to a movie like early afternoon, so I like have time to get up, get out of zombie mode, take a shower, fucking be awake. And then I go to a movie at like noon, 1, maybe 2. And then I don't fucking drink anything because I know my bladder is for shit. So I'm like, I'm not getting anything to drink beforehand or during or anything like that because I know I'll get popcorn and or candy, and that's it. And now, like, I know, like, because like I don't eat anything, I don't drink anything because I know like I'm gonna piss 1,000 times, I might have to take a crap. So I'm like, fuck that, I don't want to deal with that because I want to watch my movie. Now there are some times where I have texted during a movie, usually when the theater is like fucking empty or it's a really bad movie. Like I was texting like during like Thor shit and blunder and Beau is Afraid. I was just constantly texting my buddies like, this fucking movie fucking blows. But like there was nobody around me, or the movie or the theater was empty, so I wasn't like being a total dick. But like rarely, like I put my phone on silent, I put it on, I make sure, or I never turn off my phone just in case, but like I put it on silent, all that shit. I don't do anything. But then it's just I remember I went to go see fucking Sonic 3 for the second time with friends of mine. And we we were like, we were waiting for the post-credit scenes, doing all that thing. Gotta see Amy Rose, guys, spoiler alert. But we gotta see Amy, we gotta see Metal Sonic, right? And we were, watching, and we were like, we look to our right, there was like this mass influx. There, I must have been like 6 guys, I think they were all together. There was fucking drinks, napkins, popcorn, mozzarella sticks, nachos. There was like on the popcorn on the floor.
Was it a dine-in theater, or was it just they just got every snack that was on offer?
They got like every snack. Like it wasn't a dine-in theater. That's my other one. I think it's in a different town. But they and I'm like, we're picking that up. They're like, yeah, we know, we're picking that up. Cause it's like, but it's also like I was mind-boggling because it's like at the same time, this shit's fucking expensive. And they left like mozzarella sticks, like in the like there were still 3 or 4 left. They still left nachos. They still like, I'm like, okay, here's the thing.
Wasted food.
waste of
stuff
food,
that
waste of
people have to
money.
clean up. Like,
And
yeah,
trust
it's
me,
just
I
bad.
saw a couple of these dudes. They were fucking fatter than I was. You could have eaten that shit during the fucking movie. Just saying.
Yeah.
But it's like, if like the trash can you had to go through a labyrinth and fight a minotaur, yeah, I'd understand not wanting to throw your trash out. But it's literally
Right
next to
outside.
the fucking exit. Like, how much of a fucking dick do you have to be and not just be like, there goes my popcorn into the trash bucket? Like,
That's all it takes.
sorry, it was a bit of a
Just
side rant,
good.
but we were talking about movie theaters, and I
I
need to
mean,
get
it's
that
good
rant out. I
etiquette.
apologize,
It
but
matters,
like,
but I mean, it's part of the problem, right? Like, is
yeah,
bad etiquette is another detractor, and it's like movie theaters aren't doing enough to address that.
everyone, and I'm just
Instead,
gonna
they're
say
doing other
this
things. Like,
to like kind of further everyone, every theater, Cinemark, AMC, Regal, the places in the Midwest I don't know the
yeah,
name of, it needs to be a fucking, like, I would say, dare say, a federal law, but fucking every movie theater needs to have Alamo Drafthouse rules. If you talk or you text, you're getting thrown out. That should be the law for every fucking movie theater. And the thing is, there should be a guy, like some guy named Bubba, just fucking wearing a security thing. And if he sees you not fucking, throwing your
hmm
trash out, you go to the parking lot and you got to
like
fucking beat this
like
dude
on
in a
Judge
one-on-one
Judy, like
knife
he'll just
match.
be like, "I'm gonna escort you out, ma'am," or like, "Sir, please come with me." It's
and
just,
and then, or like,
yeah.
you know what it should be, it should be,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has seen this movie watching, but Paths of Glory, great movie, Kubrick movie, had Kirk Douglas in it, amazing movie, I'd watch it. I don't know, it might be on HBO Max actually, but there's the scene, bit of a spoiler, but there's a scene towards the end of the movie, the whole basis of it is uh like the business of war and all that. And apparently, like, they're like, oh, the reason that this battle failed and all these people died was not because of like the general that wanted to get a promotion, was because of these three soldiers that didn't listen to orders, and they were scapegoats, and they eventually got killed by a firing squad. But that, and the end of the movie is like the three of them, each of them getting shot, and it should be the ad before the movie should just be
I mean,
that
it
scene
seems a
from
little extreme, but
should be
like,
that scene from this movie. This will happen if you text, leave your trash, and uh or fucking
or talk during the
talk,
movie.
or like anything like that.
Check
This
your
will
text
fucking happen.
messages.
You're gonna get
I
killed by
mean,
firing squad if you fucking
it's
do any of this shit during the movie. And I'm
I
not
mean,
saying
look,
actually do it. I'm just saying the
no.
threat of
I'm.
it. That's
It's a
all.
little extreme, but I mean, look, like for example, Captain America 4 that's about to come out. They put out a like silence your phones PSA, where it's like, do not make him angry, and it's like the Red Hulk coming for you. I mean, like I get those are good, and I think more and more movies are doing that, where they will have like a PSA they'll
A
attach,
themed
which
PSA,
will
yeah.
like a theme PSA, which will not only play in front of their movie, but like also play against other movies. So it's kind of like a seasonal thing. It will be there for a few weeks, and then something else will come in. I like that because I think that's a big part. It's an underrated and yet an essential part of restoring the norms of what the movie going experience should be like, because you have to like treat it like a premium experience. Movie theaters like Alamo Drafthouse enforce that. I think every movie theater should enforce it. And then over time, hopefully we'll get back to that. But as far as the money part of it goes, the box office, I just think too many of us have been trained to just be like, we can just wait till it comes out on streaming,
Yeah.
or I can rent it for $10 in 3 weeks. Why go to a movie theater to watch it tonight? It literally. I've even caught myself doing that for a couple of movies. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing it because back in the day, you would have to wait for a year and a half, 2 years before you can get that chance to
They
stream
have
the movie.
in-theater stuff now where it's like
It's
you pay 30
yeah,
bucks for like a movie that's in theaters right now.
yes.
They even did that before pandemic. That
Mhm.
was like a
But
rarity, but then
even that is not. I think even that is not enough, right? Because think about this: the average movie going experience for most people is you're gonna go with somebody. Most people don't go to the movie theater by themselves. I'm not saying they
I do.
don't. Plenty of people do. I have done so myself. But I'm saying a lot of people tend to go like at least with one other person, if not the whole family or a group of friends,
Right.
or just like 2 or 3 people at the very least. That means that if you're paying $15 a pop, you're going to be paying like $35, $40, $50 total, right? Just for the tickets. And then whatever you're paying for the snacks. Now, at home, you're going to get your own snacks and all that. Like, fine. That's fine. But I'm just like, if you're gonna make it available like Disney did for a little while during the pandemic, like when Black Widow got released in a movie theater, but was also on streaming at the same time, which by the way, Scarlett Johansson then sued them and got paid a hefty amount, and rightfully so, because they didn't tell her they were going to do that, which is fair. Like contractually, you screwed her out of a lot of money because you made it available on Disney Plus at the same time, even though you charged them for it. Unlike what Warner Brothers did with their, where they were like, you just watch it on Max because they wanted the subscribers. But anyway, if you do that where you make it available to stream at the same time, I feel like you should be charging a bigger premium, because if you are gonna, like, if you think about it, most people spend at least 40-50 bucks to go to a movie theater to watch a movie, because you're doing, let's say, 2 people, some snacks, or 3 people. Just the tickets alone will cost you like 50 bucks. I mean, chances are when you want to watch it at home, you're not going to watch it by yourself, right? Especially if it's the first time. You're like, you want to watch a movie tonight, babe? Like, oh yeah, let's put it on. Let's put on Wicked. And it's like, okay, it's still in theaters. Do you want to? Yeah, let's just watch it at home. Like, we got a good TV. We got a nice sound system.
Is
20 bucks? Like, no. It should be at least 50 to 60 bucks. It should be like getting a video game for your PS5. I'm like, that should be the cost of the movie. I'm like, now when it comes out of theaters, you can lower the price. We've seen it plenty of times. Movies over time.
Yeah, where it's like it goes from 20 to $5.
Just $5. I mean, over time that happens, right? Like, it's just, you gotta start.
Have like a regiment system. Like, have it initially be like 60 bucks.
60
and
bucks.
Then during like the first like month it's out of theaters, like 20 bucks. And or maybe even 30 bucks. And
30,
then like
30,
each
35,
month it's out, lower it by like $10 until it reaches like $5. I think that's
over time. I mean, you can't do it like month 2, 3, 4 because it's gonna get to $5 real fast. But I'm just saying it could be a step. Like, you could do a ladder off, like where you taper off the price, so that, like you said, the first month after it comes out of theaters, maybe you go from 60 to $30. Then maybe a few months after that, you drop it to 20. And then depending on the popularity of the movie, they might keep the price at that level, or they might drop it further. Like, it happens. I mean, certainly for a movie that's like 5, 6, 7 years old, you're probably gonna be able to spend like $10 or something to get it. But sometimes the movies are big enough, like Avengers Endgame, if you want to go get it on like iTunes or Vudu, Fandango, or whatever, it still probably costs you at least $10 to buy, because it's still one of the biggest movies of all time. Now, with that said, guys, of course, let us know in the chat what you think about this. I mean, this is a big topic, and we can continue talking about this for hours and hours, but I feel like the fact that, our movie-going habits have changed, I think that's a big factor in why the domestic box office, even in 2025, and we have so many franchise movies, so many sequels, so many big spin-offs and IP movies coming out, including Avatar, Superman, Fantastic Four, like the second Wicked movie, and a Thunderbolts movie, another Zootopia, the first one made $1 billion, the Karate Kid Legends movie. None of that is going to, get us to the $10 billion mark. The last time we hit that mark was in 2019, before the pandemic. And in 2018, we had the record 11.9 billion. 2019, we had 11 billion with Avengers Endgame coming out that year. We got nowhere close to that number since. And I think because of, people just being able to watch movies at home a lot faster than we used to be able to. And because of that, we just wait to go see it in the movie theater. Tell us what you think about that. Do you think we need to get back to, making the movie-going experience more of that premium exclusive experience that it used to be, whereas now it's just most people don't have a reason to go? Because not only do they have already competition from a ton of streaming services that have stuff that's just generally available on streaming, but even movies that they can see in a movie theater, they're like, you just wait a month and it will be on Netflix or Amazon or Max or Disney Plus. Is that a good thing? Let us know in the chat what you guys think about it. But in the meantime, speaking of one of the biggest movies, in the world, I mean, the biggest movie franchise in the world, if you go by certainly the average amount of money it's made at the box office, the first 2 Avatar movies are 2 of the 5 highest grossing movies of all time. Mm-hmm. James Cameron, of course, has 3 out of the 5 highest grossing movies of all time when you add the Titanic from the 90s, which at the time became the highest grossing movie ever, and still to this day sits in the top 5. He, of course, recently was teasing that Avatar Fire and Ash, it's well ahead of the curve. Like, he's like, you know what? I think after doing this for a good 2 decades, we are finally figuring it out. This is what he said. He was like, in this article, he says, it's in strong shape, I think. We have doubled the number of shots finished at this stage of the game than we had on movie 2, and the films are about equal length. So it gives us an idea that, the next Avatar movie, Avatar Fire and Ash, is roughly the same runtime as Avatar the Way of Water. And then James going to continue on to say that, so that puts us well ahead of the curve, which is something I've never frankly experienced before. I mean, rightfully so, because it took him like 2 decades from when he first wrote the script for Avatar in the 90s to when it actually came out in 2009. And then it took him another decade to come out with Avatar, The Way of Water, because they were inventing more new technology and like experimenting with other new things and getting the script right. Even though the shot, it looks like parts of Avatar 3 and 4 back to back with Avatar 2. I mean, John, what do you think about this? Like, this was, James Cameron speaking to Empire over the holiday weekend, the MLK holiday weekend, and he said that, hey, man, it's a 2-year-long endeavor. It began in late 2023. He's called it hectic, but it looks like they're going to be keeping their release date, like December 19th of this year. This would make it the first Avatar movie, I believe, ever out of on the entire series that will actually stick to its original release date, because they're ahead of schedule, he's saying. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's cool. Good job, Jim Cameron.
Look at his smug face right there. The most successful single director in the history of freaking cinema.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like he's for most people, he has to be on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest directors of all time.
I mean, everything he's done has hit to varying degrees. Like, I don't love Titanic or the Avatar movies, but like every movie is just amazing of his. Like, whether that's his Terminator films, even The Abyss, which is considered pretty underrated. You have True Lies, just like everything he's done is
one of the
just
best
been...
action movies of the 90s.
Yeah.
You're fired.
So
I can't do the accent.
you're fired.
You're fired. You're fired. Anyway, I mean, look, it's James Cameron. The biggest thing about James Cameron that I love, he doesn't half-ass anything. And I take that philosophy to heart in life in general, because I'm like, look, the results, the proof is in the pudding, as they would say. James Cameron does everything about as well as it can be done. And that's why he's the most successful filmmaker of all time. And if any of you guys doubt that Avatar Fire and Ash is not going to make $1 billion, I don't know what to tell you. Avatar Fire and Ash is going to be at least $1 billion, if not $1.5 billion. The first 2 movies in this franchise both made like $2 billion. The original Avatar made like almost $3 billion, and with the re-releases, I think is basically there. So this franchise has already made like almost $5 billion. I think the Fire and Ash, if you look at some of the concept art, which you talked about on the show, not too long ago, this movie is gonna be probably one of, if not the highest grossing movies of the year. And it comes out pretty late in the year. I mean, December 19th is Christmas season. There's ton of box office revenue to be had. So many big movies come out that time.
I mean, look at Nosferatu. That was doing really good numbers.
Yeah. I mean, even
I think
smaller
that might have
movies
been
do
the
well.
best. I mean, yeah, but like, Abigail did not do very well earlier last year, but Nosferatu, I think it helped the Christmas thing. I think it helped with Robert Eggers being, concrete director. But
he's
I think
becoming more of a name now. So like people look at him as an attraction.
and it is based on a previous IP. Technically, it's Dracula. So, and subsidiary of Dracula is the Nosferatu.
I mean, there's a lot of SpongeBob fans who grew up with the Nosferatu.
Hell yeah, and Robert Eggers is like, fuck yeah, that's
don't
amazing.
underestimate that. Yeah.
Nosferatu. Anyway, so you have that, and I think like that was his most profitable film up until the point. I could be wrong on that, but I think it might have been, because it was doing really fucking good numbers for the first couple of weeks. So I think that's definitely pretty awesome.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. These Avatar movies, they don't start off with like 150, $200 million at the box office in opening weekend. Unlike a lot of the Marvel movies or Star Wars, or even the DC movies at the heyday of the DCEU. Like, usually these movies, like the first Avatar movie, I believe, made like 96 million or 69 million. It's one of those numbers at its opening weekend at the box office domestically. And then clearly, going on to make like over $2.5 billion. So I don't think it's going to kick off to a huge weekend, at least not domestically in the North American market, but it is going to eventually like get to probably $1.5 billion or maybe even another $2 billion movie. And the fact that they're ahead of schedule, it's good. I'm like, I got so tired of seeing all the delays on Avatar 2. I'm like, oh my God. It took them forever to make the first one because James Gunn conceived of the idea in the 90s and he was like, they don't even have the technology for this. I'm just going to file away the script. But then to take another 12 years, it felt like, right? Like it was at least 12, if not more. I forget.
I think so, yeah.
I forget the exact number. Like at least a decade
I'm gonna
plus.
agree with you on
And
that one.
in that time, they delayed Avatar 2 like 4 or 5 times, to the point that by the time the second movie came out, 20th Century Fox's studio doesn't exist anymore, you know, and then it was sold to Disney in the meantime. Like it took them
It's like,
that
all right,
long.
we can use a couple more $1 billion. Fuck
I
it.
mean, it's so yeah. I mean, I'm just glad that this movie is on schedule because, of course, they've got 2 more planned after this. And James Cameron, he's saying James Gunn a lot on this show, but James Cameron like has been saying that he's been filming, you know, a lot of sequences for the sequels back to back because he knows some of these actors will grow up. So he's, of course, thinking ahead, being the meticulous filmmaker that he is. He's already shot a ton of sequences for, you know, the 4th movie. So hopefully that means that, you know, the further they go along, the faster it is for them to make each you know, successive sequel. And it looks like, you know, Fire and Ash is one that's going to hit its deadline. So December 19th, the next Avatar movie, probably, you know, a guaranteed $1 billion film. Not probably, it will be. It's a guaranteed $1 billion film.
It's pretty much 100% at this point that 3 and 4 I think are going to make $1 billion. The 5th one is where I'm curious what that's going to make.
But you know what though? If that's the finale, then that will help it. Right?
That's true.
Dude, even though people hated The Rise of Skywalker, it made $1 billion, right?
But Joker made more. I always like to throw that in there.
It did. I agree. It's fair, but like the Joker was like an $80 million budget that was not meant, that Warner Brothers didn't even, you know,
and they didn't have China either to help them out, like The
I
Rise
think
of Skywalker.
It's not a fair comparison, but you know,
it is a fair comparison because fuck Disney, and I will always shit on them for Rise of Skywalker because it's a shitty ass fucking movie, and they fucking don't deserve that goddamn money.
All right, all good.
So I always gotta say, even though Joker Folio 2, everyone hates Joker now because Joker Folio 2 sucks. I'm gonna say Joker beat Rise of Skywalker without China.
Fair enough. Yep. Well, Avatar: Fire and Ash is coming out later this year. Let us know in the comments what you think. Will it make $1 billion? Will it make $2 billion? But in the meantime, we're gonna move on to the quick hits portion of the news. John, hit that music, please. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? All right, so let's start off with talking about Emilia Perez, the movie that picked up a couple of Golden Globes recently. It just swept France's Lumiere Awards with 5 prizes, including Best Film. John, what do you think?
I haven't seen the movie, so I can't judge it. I just know of the controversy surrounding it, and whether it's deserving or not, I don't know. But if it is good, then it deserves it. If it's not, then I'm sorry that it's getting all these awards. That's all I can really say.
I mean, to me, I'm kind of in the same boat. I haven't seen this movie yet, and I did hear a lot of controversy, but it looks like, you know, in the award circuit, it's still doing relatively well for itself. So I'm excited to see just how much of an impact it has given the awards it's already picked up on the Oscars race. So we'll see. But in the meantime, John, the Toxic Avenger reboot is coming to theaters in 2025. What do you think about that?
I'm so fucking stoked. After it was revealed that, it's not coming out because of bullshit, it's too much for people. Well, like, nah, Cineverse is like coming in and being like, nope, we're taking this, we're making it
Peter
a limited.
Dinklage is gonna be playing.
Fucking amazing. Macon Blair, who was in Green Room and Blue Ruin, awesome actor. This is his, I believe, his directorial debut, and I think he wrote it too. And I think Lloyd Kaufman or somebody, one of the original producers, was talking to him, and they're like, this dude I think he loves Toxic Avenger more than anybody who worked on any of the movies. So, brilliant. I'm glad we're getting it. Because I feel like, you know what I think might have helped? I think Terrifier 3 might have helped it. Because that was another one that was like, heavily gory, very weird.
I can't believe
and
that
that
money
got a
made
lot
as
of
much money
shit
as it
ton of
did.
money and a lot of mainstream attention. So I think that helped me, like, okay, there's an outlet for this. There's the weird people out there that want to see the weird gory shit, so we're gonna fucking try to get money on that shit. So thank God, Peter Dinklage doing some fun stuff, even though I know he's an asshole, but doing fun stuff. Love making Blair. This is gonna be great.
The Toxic Avenger, baby. The Toxic Avenger. It's gonna be here later this year. Now, of course, there's also another huge franchise, you know, way bigger than the Toxic Avenger, Harry Potter, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Now, we do know there's a new TV series in the works over at Max, so they've even brought in like the showrunners of like Succession and stuff. Like some of the biggest names in all of Hollywood are working on this. Some of the best people in Hollywood are working on this, and you know, actors are lining up at the wazoo to like get cast in iconic roles. So recently, Harry Potter director Chris Columbus, who of course directed some of the early movies in the franchise, you know, of course, a big part of all of our childhoods in the 90s. He continued to, like, you know, play a big role in Hollywood in the early 2000s, including the Harry Potter franchise. He recently weighed in on the upcoming TV adaptation, and he even addressed, you know, the fan casting of Cillian Murphy as Lord Voldemort. So I'll read off a couple of the quotes here, John, and I want to see your reaction to that. This was from an interview with People magazine, and of course, you know, he helmed The Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets, the first two movies in the Harry Potter franchise. And he called like the series adaptation as, you know, it's a spectacular idea because there's a certain restriction when you're making a film, he said.
Right.
Our film was 2 hours and 40 minutes. The second one was almost as long. And then he continued in an interview with the Hollywood Reporter on the 20th anniversary of Sorcerer's Stone. He recalled that Sorcerer's Stone took 160 days of shooting. That's like what? That's
and that also
over 5 months.
And especially for the first one, it didn't help that they had to shoot everything again for the American markets when it was called Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. I don't understand why they didn't just keep the name. I to this day refuse to call it Sorcerer's Stone.
I refuse to call it.
Stone.
It's Philosopher's Stone for me.
It's
the reason. You want to know the reason why? Is because the publishing house for the American version, they didn't think that the American audience would know what a philosopher is, what the Philosopher's Stone is.
That's dumb.
So they made it sound more like magical with Sorcerer's Stone.
Whatever. You know what? Americans are dumb if that's what it comes down to. I'm sure Lenny will agree with us. But look, then he pointed out that immediately after they filmed the first movie, then they spent another 160 days shooting Chamber of Secrets. So like they spent basically an entire year filming, you know, between second unit and then back-to-back shooting both movies. It's like the Matrix movies, right? And then he said that the fact that they have the leisure of multiple episodes for each book, I think that's fantastic because you can get all the stuff in the series that we didn't have the opportunity to do, all these great scenes that we couldn't put in the films. There's entire subplots in the book that were completely left out of the movies because you can only fit so much into 2.5 hours, John.
Right.
What are your thoughts on what he's saying here? And again, he also thinks that, you know, it could be great to see Cillian Murphy as Lord Voldemort. He said he's one of his favorite actors, so that would be amazing. I mean, overall, what do you think?
I think he would be too big. I think they're looking for smaller names, but that would be awesome. It's just, so there's the whole controversy with Harry Potter, mainly because of J.K. Rowling being a bitch. But like ignoring that, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna support it through that. Maybe like if it appears as something, I don't know. But I was gonna be like, I'll watch it, but like just to see. And then one of the show, because the basis was like, oh, it'll more so adapt the books. We'll see stuff that wasn't in those movies. Like the first one that comes to mind for Philosopher's Stone was the Norbert subplot, where they had to give it to Ron's brother, and they had to like, there was like this mission of like going up to this spire, and they had to like give it through him through a window, and it was like this whole thing. It was a great like scene. I'm like, oh, that would be amazing to see in live action. That would be awesome. Like doing this, doing that. And then they shot themselves in the foot and made this DOA for me personally and for a lot of other people when one of the showrunners said, we're not straight adapting the books. We're going to be doing our own thing with the source material. I'm out. I'm done. I no longer care about this adaptation.
Well, no, I'm just look, I will still give it a chance because for all we know, if this is the same line of thinking as The Last of Us, then maybe they can improve upon some things because, and then look, J.K. Rowling is going to be involved to a certain degree, so I'm sure that means that she won't let them stray too far from the story that she wrote, which, regardless of what you think about her, I'm you know, as if you want to see something that's book accurate, at least that would bode well for you in that sense. But I mean, just the fact that there's so much that was left on the cutting room floor, not even getting to the point of actually filming stuff, where they just cut it out and when they were trying to adapt the script or the book into a script. You have all of these great parts of the Harry Potter lore that if you read the book and then you watch the movie, you were like, wait a second, all these things were missing. We can get those now. I mean, and we can get them like in entire episodes, because I think they're gonna like spend what, like an entire season per book, so they're meant to be like 7 seasons at least.
Kind of
for
like
this.
what A Series of Unfortunate Events kind of
Yeah,
did, where it
exactly.
was like 3 books a season. But I think what they're gonna do is like 1 book per season.
Right.
I think it'll probably be like 8 to 10 episodes, not a lot,
Yeah.
but that's still more than the movies if they're gonna be like
Give me
45
13,
minutes per
10
episode.
to 13. I'm all for it. But yes, I mean, this series is set to start shooting later this year at Leaves and Studios, where Supergirl is currently filming, where Superman spent a lot of time filming. So Warner Brothers is, you know, ramping up. They're in the process of casting. It's good to see Chris Columbus, like, you know, talking about it in the light and just kind of bringing to the layman, the idea that, hey, look, there is a real benefit to potentially doing this as a TV show, because you can catch a lot of the details that the movies just couldn't include because of runtime issues. And, you know, otherwise you would have like 15 movies. And I mean, some of those subplots work as B-C plots, but they don't work as a focus of a story. So you couldn't all of a sudden split the book you couldn't split every book into 2 movies. Whereas if you do 10 or 12 episodes, you can cover a lot more ground. And I certainly hope that, you know, we get to see some of those classic directors of the franchise, like Chris Columbus, come back and direct some episodes. Like, I'm going to be looking at those credits when the show starts airing and see if, like, we get some big names from the past, you know, of the franchise. But in the meantime, John, let's keep the ball rolling on quick hits. Uma Thurman joins Michael C. Hall for Dexter Resurrection. Thoughts?
Cool. I'm gonna be watching it. I still need to catch up on Original Sin, but I'm gonna be watching this. It would be really interesting with what they do. I feel like they're just gonna keep making Dexter shows until they get the ending right, because I feel like that's the joke.
That's what I've heard.
The original show, the ending sucked. The next show, for a lot of people, I thought the ending was fine, but like for a lot of people, the ending sucked again, and then I was like, all right, now we got to do another show. Let's see. And then they're doing this. So it's interesting how they're getting a pretty big name like Uma Thurman for the show. I mean, they did get Charlotte Rampling for the second to last season. So there was that as well.
I mean, the series picks up in the present day, and now you've got, you know, a superstar actress in Uma Thurman joining up.
So now Michael C. Hall's doing more lumberjack shit, and then, you know, going off whatever the fuck. Like, what the fuck else are they gonna do? Like, I'm still gonna watch it. I love Michael C. Hall. I like Dexter as a character. I'm just thinking, what the fuck are they gonna? The only thing I could think they would do is go back to the original books and like do one of the storylines there, because that's the only other thing I can think of to really do this, even though they strayed far off the beaten path for those. Like by the 3rd book, they were like, duh, no way. But I think they should do that, because like I can't imagine they would do anything like he's gonna be in another town finding a serial killer, doing something. It's like, what else? Like, come on, just try to do something at least a little bit more creative, I guess.
Yeah, well, we shall find out. I mean, Uma Thurman's part of the project. That's a big ad. You can never go wrong with adding talent. So with that said, speaking of talent, Severance is back with season 2, and the creator recently confirmed, the creator of the show, that Keanu Reeves indeed cameoed as the Lumon building in like this animated sequence where he literally plays like the voice of. So, you know, the quote was, "We always wanted it to be someone with a very warm presence." John, I know that you're somebody who hasn't really picked up on the show yet, but knowing that now Keanu Reeves has done a cameo,
it's on the
list.
list.
Does that make you more likely?
Just a fucking mile-high long list of TV shows I need to watch.
I mean, but knowing that Keanu Reeves has now been in the show, at least in, you know, in a voiceover capacity, especially of course coming off of playing Shadow in the Sonic 3 movie. Does it move it up your list of TV shows?
I mean, it's like I remember when the first trailer came, like, oh, this looks like an interesting show, and then I totally forgot about it. But like, because the thing is, I love the cast. I like the surrealist kind of fucking mind-bending shit that's like kind of
John
Lynchian,
Turturro,
not gonna lie, a little
Christopher
bit.
Walken,
And it's got John
Adam
Turturro,
Scott.
it's got Christopher Walken, Adam Scott, Keanu Reeves apparently. So like
in a cameo,
and they use Tom Cruise as an inspiration for Adam Scott's running. So I like this. I feel like this is right up my alley. It's just Apple TV is just one of. It's not like, because the thing is, I have like access to some stuff on my phone, like Max, Prime, Netflix. That's like my shit. But like Apple TV is like kind of awkward because it's like under another person's thing, and I don't have like easy access to it. So it's like I'm not. Even though Apple TV like apparently has some of the fucking best shows ever.
It does.
So
there's no doubt it does. Like
I think it has like the
best
most
streaming services out there.
Like it has the morning show. It has For All Mankind. It has Severance. It has it had that
Slow
really
Horses.
It has no. I think I thought that was Hulu or Prime.
Slow Horses. It's on Apple TV Plus.
Okay. Add it to the list. Then there was that one with it was about Abraham Lincoln's like post Abraham Lincoln, or like right when he died, or something about Abraham Lincoln. I think Tobias Menzies was in it.
That might be one. It's also got Foundation. If you're a big sci-fi fan, it's got
but didn't that get canceled?
No, it's still going on. I think at least one. What am I
I'm thinking of the Ridley Scott Wolves.
That was on That was
not
on
Dances with Wolves.
It was on Max.
Raised by
I know
Wolves.
what you're talking about. Raised by Wolves. That was a different streaming service. That got canceled a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But no, Apple TV has got
They're
some of the best TV shows out there, and including Severance. So yeah, I mean, Keanu Reeves, he's now part of the Severance universe. So there was this controversy recently, John, where The Brutalist, a movie that is in a lot of Oscar categories, potentially, it's certainly already been getting nominated in all the other award shows. I think it won a couple of things at the Golden Globes. Now there was this controversy around the idea that the actors in parts of the movie speak Hungarian, right? So you got Adrian Brody, you got what's his name? Is it Adrian Brody, right? And then you have Felicity Jones. Those are the two that you see pictured here. In parts of the movie, they are speaking in Hungarian. So the director Brady Corbett decided to use some AI technology to essentially enhance their Hungarian accents, because they did their best on set, but maybe he thought that they didn't quite get it right, or to make it sound more authentic, they used AI to essentially modulate or modify the vocal performances of the actors when they're speaking in the Hungarian language, specifically for those sequences. And of course, all of a sudden people were up in arms, like, no, AI, you are modifying their performances. I mean, and he's defending it, saying, defending his decision, saying like, look, before all this AI backlash, I just want you to know Adrian and Felicity's performances are completely their own. And the minor enhancement that was done, I mean, the way he makes it sound, it feels like, it's when going to a movie editing software, like if you go into Adobe Premiere and you're working on a project, and you go in and you do some color correction, or you do some slight enhancement, like you'll do.
They're using it as a tool. I mean, I know Late Night with the Devil got a lot of backlash for its opening for using AI imagery. No matter what, it's just like, I'm just gonna say this to any director: never mention when you use AI. Just keep it to yourself. Don't brag about it.
It's not the same thing as we did. There was no CGI, people. Like, don't do that. Like, just don't mention it.
Just don't mention it, because you're gonna just get a ton of shit. Like, I understand AI, like the things. Okay, if you use AI as a tool to enhance, I feel like that's fine. I will say, Late Night with the Devil with the AI imagery was pushing it, but it didn't, like, literally, it was in the opening, and like, that's it. Like, and like maybe some stuff here and there, but it's pretty much like 99.999% of that movie is a movie. It's not like they put like a fucking premise into Chat GPT and like, this is what we got. And that's when you're substituting creativity with AI, that's a problem. If you're enhancing an accent or just putting in some imagery to help enhance the movie, I feel like that's fine. I know people are gonna fucking get up in arms with me about that, but as someone who also has made movies before and understands the hardships of like things like to get it just right and all that shit, I get that. However,
I mean, and it's
but in terms of use, I feel like people seem to forget. People have like a hate boner for AI that they forget that like it can be used as like a decent tool to help you out, to enhance some certain things here and there. And that's just like, it's color correcting is a great example. It's like, oh, you're gonna now shit on a movie that was shot in color but then was made black and white later. Like, okay, then it's kind of the same argument. So it's like you're just using editing software, just using a software instead of AI, but it's essentially the same thing. So it's like, to any directors out there, don't never just use the AI and then just shut the fuck up. Shut up. You're always gonna get hate no matter what you do.
Yeah, I mean, he said like, look, no English language was changed. They had an innovative re-speecher technology which they use in the Hungarian language dialogue editing only. And so he says like the aim was to preserve the authenticity of Adrian and Felicity's performances in another language, not to replace or alter them, and it was done with the utmost respect for the craft. So look, if it's coming from the director, I'm like, that's fair, especially because it doesn't look like it was a broad reaching thing that they did. It was very specifically used as a tool. It's almost similar to, I mean, they re-record dialogue for movies all the time, and when they will do that, like they will change up the enunciation sometimes, things like that. It's like I was watching a clip the other day because of the events going on in the world today, where like somebody put up a clip of, remember when Elon Musk was in the second Iron Man movie, and he's like, hey, I've got an idea for an electric boat for you, and then like Tony Stark turns around and looks at him, so like you only see the back of his head, and the line of dialogue is like, oh, pedophile says what? Get away from me. And by the time he says get away from me, he's looking at the camera can see his lips. I'm like, I doubt when they shot that the line was pedophile say what, because like to say that to Elon Musk's face even back then would have been like, I bet you they did something else when they shot the movie and then they redubbed it in post, and like Robert Downey Jr. was in a voice booth to be like, pedophile say what? Get away from me. And like, they replaced the first half of that. You're muted, by the way.
Wait, sorry, I was blowing my nose. Wait, was that in the movie?
Yeah.
Or was that like a fan thing?
I think it was in the movie. It's literally You don't think so?
I don't think it was in the movie.
Are you sure that's not? Because I read, then I watched back. Either that or if somebody did replace it, then I'm like, you know what? Like, great, because that proves my point that you can do that. And it's in very specific instances. So yes, that's great. I just thought that was a good example, but I mean, if it's not true,
which is funny because Robert Downey Jr. went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. Hello. Oops.
Oh,
did I say that out loud?
Right. We're moving on. Quick Hits keeps on going. And yes, you did read that correctly. Apparently, Ryan Gosling is in talks to join the next Star Wars film, everybody, and is being fast-tracked. Here's the original story, by the way. So this is actually not the original story. I found this on MovieWeb, of course, but then I went back to the original story because the Hollywood Reporter broke this as an exclusive, and they're saying that in what seems like a shocking move, because every Star Wars movie that gets announced these days seems to die a silent death, because we hear about it like, oh my god, like with great applause they announced a new movie, and then a few months we hear like, oh yeah, creative differences, it's no longer
also
happening.
I looked up the scene from Iron Man 2. He definitely does not say that.
Does he not say that? Okay,
he
well,
does
you know
not
what,
say that
in that case, I think that whenever I found that clip, somebody definitely used some AI to fix it up a little bit. So great. Well, look, another great, very limited use of AI. Perfect. So here, look, the story of Ryan Gosling, he's in talks to join. You remember they announced that Shawn Levy was working on a Star Wars movie?
No, I don't remember because there's 16 billion directors in the fucking queue to apparently direct a Star Wars movie that we have not gotten yet. So
Well, apparently the one that Shawn Levy has been working on for a couple of years, it looks like Ryan Gosling is in talks to join that. So here it says in the byline, if the deal makes, this would send the project in drive after 2 years of development and make it the next Star Wars movie to go into production. Of course, they are currently working on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, but if I were to read off of this article for a moment here, it says Ryan Gosling is headed to the great galaxy far, far away. The 3-time Oscar nominee is in negotiations to topline the Star Wars feature project that will be directed by Deadpool and Wolverine filmmaker Shawn Levy. Details on any Star Wars projects are harder to acquire than plans for an orbital planet killer. I love the sarcasm. And this is no exception. Levy has been developing his Star Wars feature since 2022. And Jonathan Tropper, who collaborated with Levy on films such as This Is Where I Leave You and The Atom Project, which is a pretty good movie on Netflix, has been working on a script for over a year. Levy is now also producing the feature with his 21 Laps banner, joining Star Wars stewards Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. So Levy's not only directing it, but he's also a producer on the movie. John, what are your thoughts on this? Ryan Gosling potentially joining the galaxy far, far away? I mean, I just never put those ingredients together. To me, this is
stupid.
Just from left field. Like straight
I don't.
up from left field.
I mean, I never believe any Star Wars movie is happening until I see it on a fucking marquee at my local movie theater. I don't believe
This
it's
could
happening.
still remember that Rey movie that they were like with Daisy Ridley coming back. They took that off the release schedule recently, so I'm like, whatever happened to that? That was pretty far along. It seemed like too. So I don't know. I mean, this is not confirmation yet, but the fact that Ryan Gosling is in talks to star. Yeah, I mean, let's just hope this one makes it to a movie theater. Like, and if it doesn't, then you know what? They tried. Then we're never getting a Star Wars movie again. So, but hey, let's keep the ball rolling here. Actually, you know what? We're not gonna keep the ball rolling here, John. Stop that music right now because we are done with the quick hits. And with that in mind, guys, let us know in the chat what you think about Ryan Gosling potentially joining the galaxy far, far away. And what do you think about the use of AI as a limited tool in movie making? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? Where are the boundary lines for you? Are there a lot of gray areas? I'm pretty sure there are gray areas. But let us know what you think in the comments down below. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. And then of course, if you toggle the notification bell, you'll know when we go live or have a new video go up. So we do appreciate that.